Hi, Dumelang. In the last episode, I spoke about living between worlds. I spoke about carrying multiple ways of knowing, multiple realities, the many different things that we inherit. And I ended with the question, what happens when we allow different worlds to speak to one another? Because the more I reflect on culture, on race, identity, belonging, the more I find myself arriving at a different question, a question that seems to appear in every culture, every generation, and every society. A question that seems to follow human beings wherever we go. And that is the question of meaning. And perhaps this is a good moment to pause and reflect on what this podcast has been exploring all along. Because although different episodes may focus on different topics, such as race, identity, culture, silence, belonging, they have never really felt like separate conversations to me. They all seem to return to something fundamental, and that is the human experience. What does it mean to be human? How do we understand ourselves? How do we understand one another? How do we navigate difference? How do we make sense of pain, love, identity, loss, connection, meaning? Perhaps these conversations have always been different pathways leading toward similar questions. Questions about who we are, questions about how we belong, questions about what gives our lives meaning. And perhaps that is why arriving at spirituality feels less like a departure and more like a continuation, another doorway into understanding what it means to be human. Because whether we are speaking about race or culture or identity, love or pain or belonging, we eventually find ourselves standing before the same mystery. Why are we here? What gives life meaning? What makes life worthwhile? And perhaps more importantly, is there something larger than ourselves? One of the things that really fascinates me about human beings is that we seem unable to live by facts alone. We need meaning. We tell stories, we create symbols, we create rituals, we search for purpose, we ask questions. Even children ask them. They ask why? Why am I here? Why did this happen? What does this mean? So we carry these thoughts, these questions with us from childhood, and even as adults, we still ask those questions. So human beings seem uniquely drawn toward meaning. We do not simply experience the world, we interpret it. We try to understand it. We try to locate ourselves within the world. And perhaps that is one of the reasons meaning matters so deeply, because without meaning, experiences can begin to feel random, disconnected, fragmented. Yet we find meaning. Even loss can become integrated into a larger story. We somehow find meaning in suffering somehow. So knowledge is important, science is important, evidence matters deeply. And yet there are some questions that knowledge alone cannot answer. Science may tell us or tell me how a sunset happens, but it cannot tell me what that sunset means to me. Science may explain grief, but it cannot remove grief. Science may even describe love, but description is not the same as experience. There are many dimensions of human life that extend beyond explanation, not beyond understanding, but beyond measurement. And perhaps this is where many of us begin to encounter mystery. Not mystery as ignorance, but mystery as recognition. Recognition that some aspects of being human cannot be reduced to data, cannot be fully captured by language, cannot be entirely measured, and yet they remain profoundly real to us. And perhaps this is where I want to introduce a word: spirituality. I realize that word means different things to different people. For some people, it feels welcoming. For others, it feels uncomfortable. For some, it may carry memories of religion, memories of rules and judgment. But for now, I want to set all of that aside, because when I speak about spirituality, I am not speaking about belonging to a particular religion. I am not speaking about having all the answers, and I am not speaking about certainty. I am speaking about the human search for connection. Connection to what? Connection to self, connection to others, connection to meaning, connection to life, connection to maybe something bigger than ourselves. And when I look across cultures, I find human beings asking those questions everywhere, in different languages, different beliefs, different traditions. Yet remarkably, the questions are similar. All the questions are around meaning, purpose, belonging, relationship, life, death, mystery. The older I become, the more comfortable I become with mystery. The more comfortable I become with not knowing everything, not having every answer, not needing certainty. Because some of the most meaningful experiences in life arrive before there's an explanation. You know, that moment of awe, that feeling of connection, a sense of presence, or a profound encounter with nature that you cannot explain. You just feel so calm when you are in nature, or hearing the sound of the waves is just soothing. So a moment that feels larger than ourselves. And human beings have been trying to describe these experiences for thousands of years. And perhaps spirituality is one of the languages we use to speak about them. Not the only language, but one language. A language that attempts to give words to experiences that can be difficult to explain. Experiences that leave us feeling connected, or moved, or humbled, expanded. And perhaps this is one of the reasons I find myself drawn to certain aspects of Black African cultures, not because they are superior, not because they contain all the answers, but because they often remind me of relationship with nature, relationship with those who came before us, relationship with the larger web of life, a reminder that perhaps we are not separate. Perhaps we never were. In the previous episode, I spoke about connectedness. And perhaps spirituality, at least as I understand it, emerges from that same place. Not separation, not superiority, not certainty, not black and white or black or white, but relationship. Relationship with ourselves, relationship with others, relationship with the world around us, the world that we exist in, and relationship with the mystery of existence itself. Sometimes I wonder whether spirituality begins much earlier than we think. Perhaps it begins the moment we stop and look up at the night sky, or that moment we hold a newborn baby, or the moment we grieve someone we love, or the moment we feel profoundly connected to another human being. These moments are often difficult to describe or even explain. The moments when life seems to ask something of us, or when life invites us for reflection, and moments that remind us that being human is about more than surviving. It is also about meaning. It is also about connection, about relationship, about belonging. And perhaps spirituality is one of the ways human beings have tried to make sense of those experiences. I don't know whether spirituality begins with belief or a sense of knowing. Sometimes I wonder whether it begins with attention to ourselves, attention to others, attention to nature, attention to meaning, and attention to the mystery of being alive at all. Perhaps spirituality begins when we allow ourselves to be curious about life, curious about meaning, curious about what connects us, about what makes us human. And perhaps that is enough for today. Not answers, just an invitation to become curious, to notice, to pay attention. In the next episode, I want to stay with this idea a little longer and explore the following question. How do we recognize moments that feel larger than ourselves? I'll see you in the next one. Lesedi Kganya.